Okay, so this is Screencast 7, which is all about the snapping tool set here. Incidentally, if you lose any of these tool sets, like if you accidentally click the little cross, the shutdown button rather than one of the snapping tools or any of these other palettes here, you can get them back by going to Window Palettes, and anything with a little tick on it is showing. So if I click snapping, then it's back on again. So these are toggle switches, so they're on, they go slightly darker grey when they're on and a lighter grey, so everything's off at the moment. By double clicking on any of these, I go into the smart cursor settings and I can make settings for any one of these within this smart cursor setting, so I can change angles here if I want. Likewise, if I double click on the angle one, I go into the angles smart cursor settings, but I can also change the grid, so you don't have to go into the specific one to change it. You can do lots of changes from one place. So I'm going to go into the grid just now. So what we can see is we've got a snap grid, which means our cursor will be snapping to 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters. Millimeters are the units in this document preference, so that's how I know it's millimeters, and the reference grid's 100. So if I click to show the grid, we should see these squares. Hopefully this will show in the screencast. And then if I take my say polyline tool, you can see that if I draw a line, I'm jumping up in units of 10, and you can probably see it just clicking around there, jumping in 10. So I wouldn't be able to draw a line along here. I would be able to snap to a line of 55 because I'm jumping up in units of 10 with the snap activated. Sometimes I think it's easier if the grid and the reference grid are the same, so I've just changed that to snapping to 100, which means now my lines all snap to the boxes. So if I was drawing a set of treads, for example, and it was 200 risers by 200 treads, maybe setting the grid at 200 by 200 would make that drawing of the set of treads, the side profile or the elevation of that set of treads, nice and easy. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, so we can change that to have rectangles. You could have 2440 by 1220 if you were drawing out sheets, for example. So I'll go back and change that back to 10 again and unclick the show grid. The next one here is the snap to objects. We have this on quite a lot. I'm going to take the grid off. Snap to objects means that when I am drawing or moving objects, if I grab the corner of this here and pull it along, you can see when it gets close to the bottom snapping point, bottom corner of that other rectangle, it snaps over and joins it. Likewise, if I went to draw another one, see I'm snapping to that corner there, snap, I can even snap to that corner there. So it kind of magnetically jumps, if you like, is attracted to the corners. This is also used for things like stage deck. If I choose a stage deck here, kind of scales a little off because I'm drawing quite small. So if I'm drawing stage decks and I don't have snap to object on, you can see when I'm trying to line it up here, it's not doing this snapping. So I need to make sure that's on in order for it to click into the top left to lay out my staging correctly. Go back into this slightly smaller one. One of the things I see people doing wrong sometimes is if I want to snap this corner to this corner, I don't want to grab the mouse and grab this non-defined point in the middle of the rectangle. If I move that over now, the corner's not going to react because the mouse is up here in the middle of the rectangle. If I want to snap the corner, I need to grab the corner. If I grab the center, I can snap the center. Top corner, top corner. So we need to be quite specific about what I want to snap to. Angles just means that when I'm drawing, my lines will snap to 45, 60, you can see in here. But it might be useful to know that if I want to, I can put in a semicolon and put another number in there. So I can have anything I want. I can now have a 22 degree snap, 30, 45, 60. There should be another one up here somewhere. 22. Okay. Perhaps not. I thought there was another one up. Yes, there is. 68. I thought there was. That's just 22 degrees off 90, if you like. So again, if you were drawing a rake or something like that, and you knew that the angle was 22 degrees, fairly steep rake, but that's a nice easy way of doing it rather than having to rotate a horizontal line up to 22 degrees. So that's editable. I'll just take that off just now. I'll sort of catch me out later. Intersection, as you might expect, will allow snapping to the intersections. There's a snap point there. Smart points are really, really handy. We use them a lot. So smart points and object snapping on at the same time means that if I take this rectangle here and I line it up with the bottom and then move it away, so I hovered across, take this to the center of the screen, I kind of hovered across the bottom corner there and then moved it away, and I see this red dotted line means like I can line up with that smart point. I can do the same vertically as well. See, there's a dotted line out there. So it allows me to line things up. I need to go over, hover for a second, and then pull away. I can each do two of them there, and I can line up that corner with the corner there and the corner there. So it's a kind of a dragging over, acquiring a second. There's a little box appears. The settings, you can change that if you want. But that's definitely one to play around with. The distance one will snap. Again, I've switched it on. You can see there's a top center, and then there's a kind of halfway point. Might be easier to see on a line. Just move that line over. You can see that it's divided it up. There are settings in there to do multiple divisions as well, which should see us see if this works. So we can see that there's like a midpoint there, then I go to the end point here, just let it quiet, and there's kind of the midpoint of, it gets quite busy. See the midpoint of those 2 points. It's not something I use a lot, to be fair. Maybe a little difficult to see on this, but have a play around with that as well. Okay, the last couple of ones here, the Smart Edge, we need to, this will probably be switched off, we need to activate this acquire edge of the mouse follows the edge for half a second. This is kind of the same as the Smart Point there. It probably won't be off because it probably won't be ticked on your version. So tick that in order to see this in working. It means that, see, I don't need to acquire the point, I just need to hold over an edge there, and I've got all these kind of smart edges appearing. Just acquire it for half a second, and there it is. So it's a kind of a slightly different way of using smart points. So just, if it's not working, it's probably because this little tick isn't on here, which I don't think it is by default. And the last one is for acquiring smart points off circles and arcs and things like that, but I'll leave you just to play with that. So yeah, have a little play around with these, especially the smart points. These two here, the snap to objects and the smart points, are used a lot, and don't forget that snap to grid is a really useful tool if you're drawing known regular frequent dimensions, like the side profile of a set of treads, for example, that's going to go 200, 200, 200, 200. If you made a grid to draw that, it's going to be far easier than having to type those numbers into your polyline tool. Okay, have a little play around with it. The treads little exercise will be coming up soon, but we've got a few things to cover before then, so see you on the next one.